know what we're going to get out of him.
And this is a big game. I mean, I know that the Cardinals are 7-1, the Niners are kind of scuffling, but it's in the division. This game's kind of important for the Cardinals too.
Oh, absolutely. And the Rams just went out and picked up Von Miller, who's not expected to play. But the Rams. There's one team that gets a bye this year, or it started last year. But like with the extra playoff spot. So it's imperative. You can't just coast to the number 2 seed or anything like that. There's a good chance they don't win the division.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. All right, Christian McCaffrey, we saw him warming up. He's expected to be back, but the coaches have said in Carolina they're going to try to limit his opportunities, sort of ease him back in. So, Florio, I mean, one, would you start Christian McCaffrey, or maybe there's some guys that you would consider starting ahead of him this week?
I would, and more likely than not, be starting Christian McCaffrey. Maybe if you're loaded at running back. Like, I have him ranked as my RB17 this week, so he's still in the top 20. I find it hard to believe that you probably have 2 options better than him, maybe even 3, but I think you more likely than not are starting Christian McCaffrey because a normal game for him is 30 touches, so limited that could be 15, and Christian McCaffrey with 15 touches could still have a really good fantasy day.
I know I've got some spots where I'm starting McCaffrey. I mean, because of that, just because we know what he can do even with limited touches, also because I've been sitting on him with him sitting on my bench for a while, and I'm just kind of antsy to get him back in the lineup. We know the Titans are going to be without Derrick Henry. In fact, the Titans have not won a game since 2015 where Derrick Henry did not play. They will go into battle against the Rams with Jeremy McNichols and Adrian Peterson. But, would you start Jeremy McNichols if you had him anywhere?
Well, first of all, let me say that the Titans have never lost a game in which they've started Adrian Peterson. So, I mean, you got that trend going for you. But you know what, I trust Adrian Peterson a little bit more. I think it's kind of like being at a music festival and you just don't want to miss the big act. Like, I don't want to miss out if Adrian Peterson ends up having like a 30-point fantasy performance and he's sitting on my bench. So I had to pick him up in a league, and I'm like, fine, I'll put him in my flex spot and see what happens. Jeremy McNichols, I think, though, to me, might be the most interesting because we have to figure what is this offense going to look like for the Tennessee Titans and what are they going to want to do? I think going up against the Rams, they're going to have to put up a lot of points. I think one of the things that we've seen from the Titans this season is that their defense is not very good. And we anticipate the Rams are going to be scoring a lot of fantasy points in this game, which means that they could have to go out there and throw it. Jeremy McNichols profiles as the passing down back, a J.D. McKissick type player, and could end up be a sneaky play, especially in PPR formats. I do like Peterson just because of that touchdown upside. Starting Jeremy McNichols, to use your music festival analogy, it's like sort of standing near the back of like the Bjork crowd and realizing that you don't know any Bjork songs. And right. You just kind of slowly Bjork's awesome, though. You should go learn some.
I mean, she's got a great voice and stuff, but after a while, I'm like, okay.
That's more on you.
I don't know any of her songs.
That's not a humble brag.
Look, I'm not saying that I'm like somehow above the fray. Who she is. I'm not above the fray here. I'm just saying, I go wander and I go get like a smoothie or something.
Bjork catching.
I know. I'm totally gonna get like the Bjork people in my mentions. It's gonna be ugly. I don't know any Icelandic. Anyway, it's time for Waiver Wire, presented by KFC. Here's some notable free agents there on NFL.com. Taysom Hill was a popular pickup, and then Sean Payton sort of pulled the rug out from underneath us, saying that it's going to be Trevor Siemian getting the start. But Adrian Peterson, we talked about Boston Scott on that list. Kadarius Toney, who looks like he'll be in the lineup. Van Jefferson, who I have been championing for a while now. Tyler Conklin, the hot tight end ad, along with Pat Freiermuth. As our pals, the fantasy footballers would say, the Muth is Muth. He's good. The Bears are pretty good against opposing tight ends. All right. So I like the receivers a little bit more in this one. So you're playing the waiver wire on a Sunday to try to fill your spots there. It's sort of like digging around in your that junk drawer to find that second AA battery before you have to go to like an old remote that you're not using and kind of pull it out of there. So
pulling out a Del Scorcho and wondering how long it's been.
How long it's been there? Like, is it still scorching? Exactly. All right.
Does the salsa go bad?
I don't know. Probably not in those packets. I can't imagine. So if you're picking somebody off waivers, Florio, who would it be this?
For me, I'm always looking for the scissors in that junk drawer. And I guess the scissors this week would be Jamal Agnew. Like, he isn't a big name by any stretch, so he might still be out there on some waiver wires. And he's been getting a lot more volume as of late. Double-digit targets last week. He is top double-digit fantasy points in 3 straight games. This is a game where I expect the Bills to be playing with the lead and could be a sizable one throughout. So the Jaguars will have to throw, especially with no James Robinson. And I think him operating out of the slot is a lot of safe production there. So he's a deeper name that I like.
Yeah. It's actually a good pick. I get sad because that's what I wanted for Laviska Shenault, and it hasn't happened this year. I don't know. Ranko, who you got?
Well, I'm looking for somebody who can back up a player, and it would be Cedric Wilson, I think was who I talked about over the weekend. Just because not being sure what's going to happen with CeeDee Lamb or any one of those pass catchers for the Dallas Cowboys. I think that Wilson's shown that he's a pretty good option. He can catch the ball. We saw what he was able to do last week. And I think it's been determined, that CeeDee Lamb is going to be fine and going to be ready to go. So maybe this is a moot point. But in case something happens to CeeDee Lamb during the game, I have this free pickup because he would be the next man up. So if I had a little bit of space on the waiver wire or a little space on the bench or something like that, if I had to drop somebody to IR, if I had picked up Tua Tagovailoa, for instance, and I don't need him anymore, and I have an extra random quarterback, just to have a little space and a little bit of insurance moving forward.
I know we like to get our camera time on the show, but I was sort of sad they cut away from that dart that Cedric Wilson threw.
I was going to say, he could be your backup quarterback.
He rolled out to a dart.
I'd rather start him over Daniel Jones.
That's so sad. All right. I'm talking about Tyler Conklin here. I was about to move on to the next thing and forgot that I was supposed to talk about Tyler Conklin. I love the matchup for him, first of all, just because the Ravens have been really bad against tight ends this year. And I thought it was one thing when it was Darren Waller and Travis Kelce kind of lighting them up, because that happens to a lot of teams. But, then we've seen the CJ Uzamas of the world having big games against Baltimore. And I'm like, maybe there's something else happening here. So I think that's in play. Also the fact that Conklin has a pretty good share of the targets there. He's pretty much neck and neck with KJ Osborne, who's their third wide receiver. So the ball is going his way. Factor that in with a good matchup, and I think Tyler Conklin can sort of be a tight end hero for you this week.
Not Chris Herndon?
Not Chris. The Chris Herndon hive, man. They pop up once a year, and then they go back to sleep again. All right, that gets us to 15 for 15, presented by Geico. Adam Rain, take us through your list of must-start QBs.
Well, Josh Allen is obvious. A lot of people like to overthink things what if it's a blowout? And I'm like, that should not enter your lexicon.
But for it to be a blowout, Josh Allen usually has to do a lot of things.
He usually has a rushing touchdown or something. Like Lamar Jackson, Matthew Stafford in a great matchup against the Tennessee Titans, Dak Prescott, and Patrick Mahomes. Even though Patrick Mahomes has been scuffling over the last couple of weeks, he definitely is a must-start. But let me have an opportunity right now to talk about Joe Burrow, somebody who, when you look at that list right there, you see the top 5 fantasy quarterbacks this week. Joe Burrow is certainly part of that class, and I think what he's been able to do this season has been pretty amazing, returning from that knee injury. I know a lot of us talk about the narrative over the summer about Jamar Chase not being able to catch the football. There were a lot of people who watched one practice of Joe Burrow and determined that he was never going to return from his knee injury. And yet, as you see, he has put up 20 fantasy points in 4 or 5 games. I feel like the Bengals had so many narratives thrust upon them that one kind of goes underreported, so to speak.
I mean, there was that, and there was Jamar Chase, who apparently had never seen a football before.
Right. Everybody focused on that one, but the Burrow one was the craziest.
Yeah, but
they're all crazy. What am I saying?
I think things are fine now. So let's talk some running backs, Florio. You got a list of 5 must-starts here.
Yeah, Damian Harris, the lone Patriot running back that we could count on to get consistent work each week. Elijah Mitchell, Khalil Herbert, although I will put out the caveat that if David Montgomery plays, then maybe you got to go in a different direction than Herbert. Devontae Booker and Boston Scott round out the list, but I wanted to focus on Elijah Mitchell here. Elijah Mitchell just has 18 or more carries in 4 of the 5 games that he has started this year. He's gone for over 100 yards and a touchdown in each of the last 2. And I know some people are worried about Jeff Wilson Jr. coming back. I think Jeff Wilson could take JaMychal Hasty's role as the pass-catching back. Maybe he eats into the carries a little bit, but with the way Elijah Mitchell's running, I don't see the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan getting away from him, especially in the game against the Cardinals where, Murray is banged up. Is D-Hop going to play? This could be a close, low-scoring game, which is a favorable game script for the running back.
Absolutely. And, I know people are worried, like you said, about Jeff Wilson. I don't think right now, not this week at least, I'd be concerned about it.
Yeah.
We'll see how things play out.
That's what they say.
I know, that's what they always say. And then Shanahan.
Then on Monday, we were like, Jeff Wilson.
We totally should have started Jeff Wilson. All right, let's look at some must-start wide receivers. Brandon Cooks, because, who else do they throw it to in Houston? Bobby Trees, who's really come on of late for the Rams. Got a good matchup against the Titans. DJ Moore, regardless of who the quarterback is going to be. Maybe it's Sam Darnold. Maybe it's P.J. Walker. Either way, DJ Moore should get the ball plenty in his direction. There's Marquise Brown, Deontay Johnson. because, again, who else do they throw the football to in Pittsburgh? Let's go back, though, to Mr. Hollywood, Mr. Jet Fuel, Mr. Brown, Marquise Brown, who really has stepped up and really turned a corner, I think, this year. We were sort of hoping for it the last couple of seasons, but this year seems to be the season when he and Lamar Jackson are connecting. They're using him, obviously, you see there on the deep throws. We know that he can stretch the field, but they're just trying to find different ways to get the football in his hands. And I think the added benefit of having Rashad Bateman on the other side, who's had a couple of nice games, is that now defenses do have someone else that they've got to pay attention to. So Brown's a guy that I think you can feel confident starting every single week, and I think this week especially against that Vikings secondary. I like the matchup there.
I really like it.
Yeah. All right, tight ends. Rank, you got 5 to start, right?
I do. Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts, and, of course, my guy Mike Gesicki. Gesicki, tight ends in Houston. I know they're playing host to Houston, but just playing the Texans, it's the epicenter. Let's take a moment and focus in on Travis Kelce, who had one of the worst games that I've ever seen him play in my entire existence on this earth. And one of the things, though, that we was our research packet we get every week, they talked about this. In games where Travis Kelce has had less than 40 receiving yards, and he was awful on Monday night, 27 yards, lost the fumble. The following week, he has come back to average 90 receiving yards, and he scored a touchdown in every single one of those games. Scored at least a touchdown in every single one of those games. So I'm anticipating the bounce back, and if not, then I need you to reach out to Matt Okada, the man who put this in the research packet, who might just be setting me up to look like the fool, which I don't know. I feel like a heel turn's coming at some point, and that's fine. But I just want to let everybody know that if you're upset about Travis Kelce and what happened on Monday night, I know a lot of people went into that game, be like, I just need 10 from Kelce. I got this in the bag. It did not happen. But you know what? The history shows that he always rebounds and plays very well.
I mean, not to mention that who else are you really going to start over Travis Kelce?
I don't know. People are weird. They have these questions. I don't know.
I mean, you're not going to
I'm sorry that I'm giving out football information.
I mean, you're not going to start Donald Parham over Travis Kelce.
You never know.
That. Anyway, next on NFL Fantasy Game Day, presented by Geico, we're sliding into some of your DMs. We're giving you our definitely must starts. You know, when you slide into people's DMs, just ask the question. Don't be like, hey, how you doing? Whatever. Are we going to ask about Lamar Jackson? Maybe. We talk about Alvin Kamara? Maybe that too. Especially because we know that it'll be Trevor Siemian as his starting quarterback. We'll talk more about this when we come back. Just hang around. It's the Tiger King himself, Joe Burrow getting ready for the battle of the OH-10 between the Bengals and the Browns. It's kind of an interesting game. The Bengals trying to establish supremacy in the AFC North. And then Matty Ice, who has had some nice games. We'll see if he can put one up. And then he's had some not so nice games. I mean, look, sometimes he's Matty Ice, and sometimes he's just meh Ryan. We'll see which one shows up today against the New Orleans Saints. Welcome back to NFL Fantasy Game Day presented by Geico. We got tweets sent them to us at NFL Fantasy. By the way, if you have questions, you can still hit us up in the comments section there on YouTube, and Matt Okada will be answering some of them here. All right, question. This one for you, Rank.
Yo.
Chase Claypool or Robert Woods?
Robert Woods.
Yeah.
Although, I don't know. They're both late games, so it doesn't matter.
Bobby
In
Trees,
case Bobby Trees is just a somewhat surprise inactive.
Yeah. I don't know. I just trust the Rams passing game more than the Steelers passing
No, but he's just battling some injuries, so we just got to keep an eye on that. But again, it's a 5:30 game, so you're fine.
There you go. That's fair. This one for you, Florio. Melvin Gordon, Van Jefferson, or Kadarius Toney in the flex?
I love Kadarius Toney this week, so I'm going to go with him there. With Sterling Shepard out, he gets a lot more time in the slot. I think I have him ranked as a top 20 wide receiver this week, so
I like
Toney.
him too.
Tony?
Yeah.
I know. I went to go pick him up.
As long as he doesn't go off the field with mysterious injuries, he's fine.
He's a good player.
Back to you, Rank. Do we go with Derek Gore against Green Bay or Boston Scott against the Chargers?
No. We're going to go Boston Scott here. The Chargers have
Boston
allowed a lot of fantasy points to opposing running backs this season. And really, when you look at the snap share last week, the majority of it goes to Boston Scott and the other guy, not our guy, Kenny Gainwell.
Jordan Howard.
Kenny Gainwell. Who got all his points in garbage time.
Yeah.
He had 6 snaps heading into the fourth quarter last week.
Yeah. He ended up with the most rushing attempts.
He really
but
did.
They all came in garbage time.
Yeah.
This last one for you, Florio. A.J. Dillon in the flex in PPR. Is he worth it?
I mean, it all depends on your other options, but I definitely think it is worth it today. With no Aaron Rodgers, I think they're going to run a lot today.
You know what's going to happen is this person's going to tweet you back and be like, okay, so I started him over Cooper Kupp and I lost my league. Tell us who you're starting him over. It's a very vague question.
That is sort of on you. All right, time for some fantasy DMs. Our weekly definitely must starts. All right, I mean, without getting kind of creepy and weird, whose DMs, Florio, are you sliding into this week?
I had some angry people sliding into mine for something that I didn't do, but I would be sliding. There's another guy out there who said some angry stuff on Twitter and Instagram that was not me. But I think Marquise Brown is a definite must start this week. I mean, he's had 19 or more fantasy points 5 times this year. He's one of 2 wide receivers to do that. The Vikings give up a good amount of points to wide receivers. And the thing I love about Marquise Brown is even with Andrews and Bateman there, it's not like Marquise Brown needs 10 targets a game to be a wide receiver 1 like he has been. He just needs a couple of those long balls, and they've been connecting with Lamar. This Ravens passing game is better than it gets credit for. I think you start him with confidence this week.
I feel like it's weird. Like, Lamar is like the QB3, right? And I feel like even then, I know we talk about him and we all here like him, but even then I feel like he still hasn't gotten enough love for what
Oh my gosh, never.
Right? Like, he still hasn't gotten enough love despite that. All right, Rank, who is your fantasy DM this week?
I'm going to go with Brandon Cooks. And this was a player that I loved on Monday night when they made us fill out the homework for their show. I love him even more Sunday morning, especially with everything crumbling around us. First of all, Tyrod Taylor back, and so I think that's a huge boost for him. But you see right there on the screen, his target share is insane. And this is one of the things we were talking about coming into this season, why we loved Brandon Cooks. A lot of people didn't want anything to do with this Texans offense, but we're like, wait a minute, like, this guy is going to get so many targets. He can't help but have great games. And even though there's been some weeks where it hasn't worked out, it's like, yeah, he's your 9th round draft pick. Like, that happens. Like, not everybody's Cooper Kupp. But I think for this offense, I think he's great. So I would start him every week.
The biggest thing that surprised me there is that he has the 5th highest target share. Like, I figured it was going to be higher. Like,
Kupp would be number 1. There's some other
Samuel's up there.
Debo's up there.
True. Yeah, I just felt like there's nobody else they throw it to there. I just figured he would have been higher.
They have those random tight ends they love to throw to.
That's true. And then, like, now Nico Collins, I guess, is back in the mix.
Nico.
I see they put the graphic up to tell me to talk about Dallas Goedert. So let's talk about Dallas Goedert.
You're waiting for that pop, just so you knew.
I knew who it was. I knew we were talking about.
Did you?
We were talking about Brandon Cooks, though. I was enjoying that conversation. I also enjoy starting Dallas Goedert this week because since Zach Ertz now collects mail in Arizona, Dallas Goedert's getting some more opportunities, seeing about a target and a half extra per game, about 30 receiving yards extra per game. He's been over 70 yards in back-to-back games now without Zach Ertz there. And the Chargers are good against wide receivers, not so much against running backs and tight ends. So I think if Jalen Hurts is going to make hay, it's going to be throwing the football to Dallas Goedert. This could also be, by the way, the game that Jalen Hurts gets back on the 20-point fantasy train.
Well, he did.
No, he had one game. I'm not saying he's bad.
He's killing the Lions.
It's bad for him when they're winning.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
so maybe this is a situation
should be
where
losing. Yeah, they
should
should
be
be
losing. All right, we can go take a break now. Next, coming up on NFL Fantasy Game Day, presented by Geico. You know, we got an extra hour of sleep. I mean, some of us did. Some of us did.
Not if you have children.
Not if you have kids. But hopefully you're not sleeping on some of these guys. Coming up, that was Baker Mayfield. This is Derek Carr. Both these guys are playing on Sunday. We're going to talk about at least one of them, maybe even more. Who knows? Stick around to find out, though. It's last week's quarterback hero, standing next to the guy we thought would be this week's quarterback hero. Trevor Siemian there on the left, Taysom Hill on the right, and then there's a third guy that just popped in there for the Saints. None of them are Drew Brees. I just know that much.
Frank's favorite player.
There he is, Danny Dimes, who we call that because he runs a lot. I don't know. We'll see if Daniel Jones, which version of Daniel Jones shows up for the Giants against the Las Vegas Raiders today. Welcome back to NFL Fantasy Game Day presented by Geico. Adam Rank is
Daniel Jones.
Adam Rank is making sure he gets Daniel Jones out of his lineup this week, or maybe puts him in. I don't know.
No, I have the Fantasy Plus thing, and it
which
just
is great.
It just keeps pushing it. I'm like, no. Get Danny out of there.
But by the way, like, Fantasy Plus is great. If you haven't signed up for it, you should absolutely do that.
100%.
We all live by it here.
It's $10.
Let's check out the notable actives and inactives.
Bounced.
Tua Tagovailoa is active, but is only expected to play sort of in case of emergency, so you should probably get him out of your lineup. James Robinson is out, but the rest of these guys are active and expected to play. Sam Darnold, Christian McCaffrey, you see the wide receivers there. These are for the late games. Aaron Rodgers, don't know if you heard, he's not playing today. I know. It was sort of an under-the-radar story. You might not have heard about it. Kyler Murray, game-time decision, as is DeAndre Hopkins. Right now, not looking good necessarily for Kyler. You see Elijah Mitchell there, Deebo Samuel, they are questionable for the 49ers as well. All right. We got some burning questions here to read. The first burning question. Will Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp remain the top overall fantasy scorers for a third straight week? Adam Rank.
Yes. I think you got it. Yeah, I think that's pretty obvious. I still pick the Titans to win this game, so please don't tweet me any of your angry memes. I like picking the Titans because then they, for a week, rank knows ball, as they like to say, which is pretty good. But you know what? This is amazing. I think that with Matthew Stafford, we were talking about Lamar Jackson kind of flying under the radar. I think we're kind of overlooking what Matthew Stafford has been doing, like how great he has been. I think as somebody who's a fan of the team in the NFC North, it's like I've always appreciated what Matthew Stafford has been able to do. I don't think the rest of the world is quite caught on. It's like when there's a regional band, like I was a big Sublime guy. I don't feel like the rest of the world quite appreciated what Sublime was doing. And I think that's what we're getting out of Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford here. So I think they're in a great matchup against the Titans, who've allowed a lot of fantasy points this season, but they continue this going on Sunday night.
Yeah, Sublime has an excellent Mexican lager named after themselves.
Yeah, Ale Smith.
Tasty. Yeah, it's pretty tasty. You should check it out. If they
also have a Tony Gwynn one, too.
I imagine that's pretty good, too. I imagine it hits. Anyway, I'm with you, though, on Matthew Stafford. I mean, I liked what he did in Detroit. The supporting cast wasn't always
early
great.
Stuff.
Supporting cast
like
wasn't always great.
Beyonce with Destiny's Child.
And he's still not getting. He's better than ever, and he's not really getting all the credit.
People still, you know what? And people still don't believe it.
It's sort of like finding out that Paul McCartney was in a band before Wings. You just didn't know that sort of thing. Next up, Tyreek Hill. I should wait. Next question. Tyreek Hill. He has 3 games with 10 or more catches this season, most in the NFL. Florio, does he make it a 4th game today against the Green Bay Packers?
I'm not sure if he gets to 10 catches or not on the day. I know that, I'm not expecting them to have to throw as much as they would have if Aaron Rodgers was playing because it's Jordan Love. I think they're going to, run a slower paced offense. I don't know if he gets to 10 catches, but I think he has a good fantasy day. I expect the Chiefs to kind of get back on track. The last couple of weeks, they haven't looked it. I know I say this almost every week. I'm going to keep saying it until they get back on track. They have way too much talent, too good of a play caller to be playing as poorly as they have been. So I'm not sure if he gets 10 catches, but I think he has a really good fantasy day.
Yeah, I do see some big numbers coming for him. I wouldn't be surprised if he's, around 150 receiving yards, but 10 catches? He doesn't need 10 catches. Yeah. He doesn't need 10 catches to get to 150 yards.
That's the problem with him. If we could get super nuanced on Tyreek Hill, is for as great as he is, if you're in a PPR league, he doesn't get enough catches. And you're like, this could be more. I feel like we're getting robbed of 5 points.
Because he'll take one and go 70 yards.
Yes, it's annoying.
So, yeah, that does kind of, frustrate you, I guess, a little bit. All right, time now for Fantasy Insurance presented by Geico. We are talking sleepers in a week where, in theory, we all got an extra hour of sleep. And it didn't necessarily play out for everyone. But
where's Daddy?
Let's talk about some guys that we should not be sleeping on this week. Rank, start us off.
You know what? This was a guy that at least I put on the hype train. I like Jamal Agnew.
I like Jamal Agnew this week.
No, you did? No. I don't. Play the tape.
I like Jamal Agnew this week.
Okay, we both like Jamal Agnew. I forget. I'm worried about rhyming things. I don't even know what you're saying. No disrespect to you. But I really think that there's an opportunity for him. And with James Robinson out this week, they're going to need somebody to take the pressure off of Trevor Lawrence, or at least try to move the football. And so I look at this matchup, and you expect the Jags to be losing in this game, and they're going to be in negative deficits. And it's funny because he wears number 39. I think that our designations should go by jersey number.
So then would that make him a running back?
Yeah, so you could play him in the running back position. We have to start him as a receiver.
So that means Cordero Patterson's a receiver,
whatever,
right?
Fine. I don't
still
care.
wearing like 84 or whatever it is.
We made fun of Tom Brady when he pointed out the number change was going to be an issue. I think he was right.
I just think it's weird.
It's fun.
It's just weird, that's all.
Stop being boomers. It's fun to see a guy running around in a number 4.
All right.
Whatever.
Speaking of boomers, you have a guy named Gore, but maybe not that Gore.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Frank Gore?
First name of Derrick Henry, last name of Frank Gore. But this guy, I had never heard of him coming into last Monday Night Football, and he ended up getting double-digit carries. He scored a touchdown. He was their number 2 back. It kind of seemed like they were phasing Jerick McKinnon out of that backfield, and Darrell Williams is going to get all of the passing down work, and Gore and Williams are going to split on the ground. Plus, Gore got the work inside the 10-yard line. He scored a touchdown. He got stuffed another time, but I think in a game like this against Green Bay, where I don't think they're going to have to throw as much as if Aaron Rodgers was playing. So I think that we could see them kind of grind out the clock later on with Derek Gore. He's a deeper name, but I think he's a sleeper this week.
Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's never going to play again.
Oh, my God.
Like, literally, like, every other back has stepped in there and been so much better than him. I'm sorry, CEH.
That's true, though.
I mean, it is kind of true. I'm looking at Jordan Howard, and we've talked about Boston Scott on this show, and we've talked about the fact that the Charger run defense, it's not good. In fact, I think it's ranked 31st in the NFL coming into today. So this seems like another opportunity for the Eagles to kind of go run heavy if they choose to, which also is bad news for Kenneth Gainwell because that means he might not play a whole lot. I do like Jordan Howard just because if they get down close, chances are he's going to be getting the ball. Sort of like we're talking about with Adrian Peterson with the Titans.
Yeah.
I feel like he can play a similar role where he's the guy who's just going to be that hammer down near the end zone. And if he gets you a couple more touchdowns, then you're feeling good about it. I know I'm starting him in at least one place because times are tough.
He's a good player.
He's a good player.
He's a good player.
There is Dak Prescott standing next to CeeDee Lamb, which seems like a good news situation for CeeDee Lamb as well. That should remind me that coming up next on NFL Fantasy Game Day, presented by Geico, we got our favorite flexes. We don't have Hans and Franz, but we're here to pump you up. I know.
Our producer just popped.
This Kadarius Toney getting loose.
There he is.
A little bit of left lunge, getting the obliques ready to go. Stick around. Christian McCaffrey out there in uniform. So it looks like he really might play. I mean, I know we've been teased about it the last couple of weeks, but things look good for him playing. I still say don't drop Chuba Hubbard yet. Like,
oh my gosh, I'd almost play Chuba
Let's
Hubbard.
just make sure he gets through a full game there. And McCorkle Jones. I think McCorkle's actually his middle name. I think it's like Michael. I think it's Michael McCorkle Jones.
Don't slander the.
No, I am not joking. I believe
feel like this is one of your bits, and I don't appreciate
Jones. See, Matt Okada confirmed it. McCorkle is.
Matt Okada's been setting me up this whole time. I don't trust him at all.
He could have been Mike Jones this whole time.
We're back on NFL Fantasy Game Day presented by Geico.
No disrespect.
That's Rank. That's Florio. Helping you get ready for week 9 of the season. Now, it's always a tough decision to decide who you're going to put in that flex spot. Where are you going with that this week, Florio?
I'm going to go with A.J. Dillon here.
You're welcome. Well, I was talking about, now you got to copy me.
I'm copying Adam Rank, but I think it's a good spot for Dillon, who got 16 carries last week. You know, Rank, you like him. What do you like about him?
No. I don't want to take this from me, but we saw when they were decimated against the Arizona Cardinals.
We're going to take it from you.
No, it's fine. When they were decimated by the COVID issues with Lazard and with Devontae Adams out, they turned to their running game, and I think they helped Jordan Love out. they have to run the football. They're two most reliable. Yeah, so I think they're going to have to do that this week.
Agreed. So flex A.J. Dillon.
He's had like at least 10 touches and 50 yards in 3 of 5.
Yeah, flex A.J. Dillon.
Because I go to Matt Frederick. I don't go to Okada.
now we're driving a wedge between our team researchers. There we go.
There's a war between our researchers. Chase Claypool. How do you feel about Chase Claypool?
I think he's a solid flex option, but in a couple leagues I'm getting away from him. But there's a couple spots where I need to start him.
You know what? Here's what I say though: is that the Bears have been very good against why do I keep saying defensive ends? Against tight ends this season, and I think that they've been very vulnerable to opposing wide receivers, and I think this is an opportunity for guys like Chase Claypool, and Deontay Johnson to go out there and get some points against a depleted Bears secondary.
Better Claypool.
Just wish Ben threw more. Chase.
All right?
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, cool. My flex option, he plays next door. Van Jefferson. And I still don't understand why he's so widely available. I don't even know what the percentage is, but it's too much. It's too high, whatever the percentage of leagues he's available in. He's the third option in the NFL's second best passing game, and he's going against the Titans, who have struggled against wide receivers all year long. There's no reason that he shouldn't be in a ton of flex spots, especially if you're playing in a 12-team league or deeper. Like, he needs to be on a roster. He probably should be in your flex spot. And he doesn't have to catch a lot of passes in order to have a big day. He can get you about 60 yards and maybe a touchdown on just a handful of targets. So get him in your lineup.
Per Okada, available in 85% of leagues still.
85%. That's way too many. Get on the ball. Anyway, time now for Who Scores, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. We'll talk about some of the biggest names in fantasy and what we are expecting from them today. So, Rank, we'll start with you. Najee Harris, he's been a top 12 running back in 6 straight games. Does he keep that going this week on Monday night against your beloved Bears?
Probably. I would anticipate him getting over 20 fantasy points in this one, having a monster game against, a Bears defense that is going to be down. Khalil Mack, he's already been ruled out. Eddie Jackson is doubtful. So there's going to be opportunities for the Steelers team. And honestly, when you look at what the Steelers have been able to do over the last couple of weeks, they've won 3 consecutive games. And not coincidentally, it's been when they turned their offense over to Najee Harris. This is why they drafted him so early. And I know that all the running backs don't matter community was up in arms when they drafted Najee Harris. But he's been very good this season. So I think he'll go out against the Bears and have another big game.
All right. DraftKings has Najee right around 79.5 rush yards. What's your fantasy projection for him?
Yeah, I would say about 20 fantasy points. I think 20-plus fantasy points somewhere. I think it's easy that he's going to get. I would expect him around 100 total yards. I would think about 4 receptions and a touchdown, which would give him 21 fantasy points.
It's a pretty good day.
Yeah, 100 fantasy points would be nice, too.
100 fantasy points would be amazing.
Would I say at 100?
I mean, you said 100 total yards, but 100 fantasy points.
100 total yards, 100 fantasy points. That'd be good.
All right, Florio. Deebo Samuel has the most receiving yards through the first 7 games of a season in 49ers history. That is a franchise that had this dude named Jerry Rice, who played for them for a while, Terrell Owens. Deebo Samuel has more yards than all those guys. Does he keep it rolling against the Cardinals this week?
I like Deebo Samuel. I mean, he has been better than anyone expected. Forget what he's not even giving us what Brandon Ayuk, what we thought we'd get out of him. He's giving us what we thought we would get out of George Kittle. Like, he has been their #1 option. I think if you have Deebo Samuel, you're starting him this week. You probably don't have too many better options, but I think he's a little bit riskier this week than he has been up until this point this season.
I know he's he's kind of banged up. He was questionable. So we'll see if that limits him at all. DraftKings has Deebo right around 66.5 receiving yards. What's your fantasy projection for him?
I'm giving him about 15 fantasy points, which is because I still think he's a very good player. You have to respect his role and his talent. He's got over 30% target share on the year, but George Kittle's back, and I know they're saying he's limited. He's still going to be utilized more than any other tight end. Brandon Ayuk was used in that game last week more than he has been, and the calf injury is scary, so all of that has me projecting a little bit lower than normal for Deebo.
We'll see if they lean on the running game a little bit more, too, just because of that this week against the Cardinals. All right, that was Who Scores, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code WHOSCORES to claim your deposit bonus up to $1,000. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and a first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires 25 times playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, we're going to take a quick break so we can go check our lineups. There is CD Lamb. They call him that because he's certificate of deposit because, you know, he's just money. Let's hope he's playing because I have him in one of my lineups, and I want him to score a lot of fantasy points. And there are the Saints. That is Mark Ingram. Back home in New Orleans. He made a couple plays for them last week. We'll see if he makes some more this week in a division game against the Atlanta Falcons. Stay tuned. Be back coming up after the break. There is your fantasy QB3 on the season. Lamar Jackson getting ready to let it rip against the Minnesota Vikings. A lot of purple going on there in that stadium today. Just a matter of which shade I guess you're cheering for. Time for 15 minutes to kick off, presented by Geico. Another look at our inactives from the early games here. Tua is active but not playing because of the multiple injuries he has. He will be on the field in case of emergency. James Robinson is out. Get him out of your lineup. CMC is active. You will have to use your discretion whether or not you're starting him based on who else you may have on your roster. Back here on NFL Fantasy Game Day, presented by Geico, getting you ready to kick things off in Week 9, which starts in about 13 minutes or so. So we got some viewer questions that you have been sending us on the Twitter machines. We're going to answer some of them. Who is a more reliable start, Adam Rank, Dallas Goedert or Mike Gesicki?
Ooh, I think Gesicki. I think it's close. I don't know why you have both of these players, but I think Gesicki to me. And when Jacoby Brissett has been the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, he has targeted Jalen Waddle and Mike Gesicki. Gesicki.
Yeah, you should probably trade one of those guys because that's going to be a headache you're going to have every single week. All right, Florio, Burrow or Mahomes, which is the question I never thought we'd hear.
This is closer than I ever anticipated it. I have both in my top 7, but I'm still going to go with Patrick Mahomes there. I just like him a little bit more.
I think the ceiling is ultimately higher for Mahomes, but Burrow, that's a legitimate question. Never would have thought that. All right, here we go. Rank this one for you, CD Lamb or Adam Thielen?
I'm going to go CD Lamb. As long as CD Lamb is available and ready to go, I'm going to get him into the lineup. I have no hesitation with that. And they had the bicentennial helmets. I don't know if you caught that.
I saw that.
Yeah.
They're wearing
that bump shot.
Some of those throwback helmets. Yeah, I'm down with that. All right, last one's for you, Florio. Should I start Lamar Jackson or Matt Stafford this week?
Yeah, this is a high-class problem.
Ooh.
Speak about having to trade. You should definitely trade one of these players. I would go with Matt Stafford there, though. I just like the matchup. They're literally my QB 2 and 3 on the week, but Stafford is 2, so I would go with Stafford.
I feel like you should pick one and then never waver.
Yeah,
because it's just going to drive you crazy.
Right. No, seriously. Just like it's like going to the Cheesecake Factory and like just you pick something off the menu, you close the menu, and you just push it.
That's it. I don't need to go back to page 30.
Right. Look at the beef medallions, whatever it is. All right, time for Sunday Funday.
Money guns.
Let's party it up. Top scorer this week will be.
I'm gonna get on. I'm gonna go A.J. Brown because last week I said A.J. Brown was gonna be the top wide receiver. He was, and so what? I'm gonna chase it. I'm gonna do it again. Let's go back at it again. The whole reason I know that he's got an injury designation right now, but to me, this Titans team is very talented. They have the ability to keep up with teams like the Rams. Their defense has the ability to allow a lot of points to the opposing team. I think this is going to be a fun shootout, and I think that A.J. Brown ends up with more fantasy points than our guys Van Jefferson and Cooper Kupp as well. Obviously, because I think he's the top.
Because you think he's going to be the top scorer.
Could you imagine, he's not going to be the top scorer in this game, but of the week for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I believe you have a rebuttal to that, Florio.
I'm going with someone on the opposite side of this game, and I'm pretty sure we've been on a hot streak here. Like, someone on this show has predicted the top scorer
100%.
a few weeks in a row. I think it's going to be Cooper Kupp, though. The Titans allow the most catches, yards, fantasy points, and second most touchdowns to receivers. This guy has 10 targets in all but one game. In that one game, he has 9. So plenty of volume going his way, guaranteed, in a great matchup. I just think he's going to go off. This is a spot where for him to feast this week.
For sure.
Well, I'm staying in this game. I'm picking Nick Westbrook a kick. No. I'm going to go with Josh Allen for the Buffalo Bills. And, Rank, you were saying that people were giving you a hard time. Like, well, what if the Bills win in a blowout and it's going to hurt Josh? Well, if the Bills are winning in a blowout, chances are Josh Allen had a lot to do with it.
What if he has 3 of those?
Right,
pull him.
Chances are he's had a lot to do with it, whether it's throwing the football or running the football. The Jaguars have just been struggling this year on both offense and defense. I'm expecting the Bills to kind of win this game in a rout, and I think Josh Allen is going to have a huge, huge day because of it. All right. Go around the horn. We'll talk about our must-start quarterbacks for the week. Which signal color do you have to have in your lineup?
You know what? I'm going to say Kirk Cousins in this one. Of one of the, non-top guys. I think he's the Intercontinental title holder. He's a secondary champion. And I know last week it was bad, but that's Kirk Cousins for you. This is a reason why he's not an elite quarterback. It's because he doesn't play well in prime time. He doesn't play well against teams with winning records. So he went out and Kirk Cousins did. But I think he's got a bounce-back opportunity against the Ravens, who, while they are a very good team, they're not the elite defense that they have been for quite some time.
Florio, who's yours?
I like the Cousins call. I also like Tyrod Taylor here a lot, and I have had to pivot to him in a couple of spots where I have Kyler Murray or Tua Tagovailoa, but he scored nearly 24 fantasy points in his only full game this year, and in the half that he played in week 2, he had 16.5 because of what he could do there. We know he can add a lot of points with his legs. He's a much better passer than Davis Mills, so I think it means better numbers for everyone around him as well.
I do like Tyrod. I've grabbed him in a couple of spots. I don't think I've thrown him in a lineup, but I'm holding on to him just in case something happens. I was going to talk about Taysom Hill in this spot, but Sean Payton hates our fantasy team, so now I'm going to tell you about Joe Burrow going against the Browns. The Bengals have the 7th-ranked passing game in the NFL right now. Burrow has been such a big part of it. Obviously, we've talked about what Jamar Chase has done, but the fact that he's spreading the ball around. Last week, we saw Tyler Boyd, we saw T. Higgins. We're seeing those guys get involved again, and even now and then, they will dump it off out of the backfield to Joe Mixon. They can get C.J. Uzomah involved. The Browns have been struggling defensively lately, so I like Joe Burrow in this one.
This is me making changes to this week is so crazy. I'm constantly trying to find.
Have you found CMC?
I found CMC. I finally found the league where I have CMC.
Haystack. Solved.
There's 30 of them.
Since we're talking running backs here, who is your must-start running back?
You know what? I'm going to say Aaron Jones, but I want to make this all-encompassing to both running backs for the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, Aaron Jones is one of those guys that can really step up in a situation like this. We've seen Aaron Rodgers lean on him a number of times where he has these multiple touchdown games. I think that this could be a chance for him to have multiple 2, 3, maybe even 4 touchdowns. I think A.J. Dillon's a really nice option, too. Michael Frank and I were sitting here talking about that, about how A.J. Dillon can be very effective. So just make this both Packers running backs need to be started today. And if you'll excuse me, I have to drop somebody off an IR to get CMC. So
all right, we'll give you a minute here. Florio, you like Devontae Booker, huh?
Yeah, I know Saquon Barkley, so I don't hate the matchup here for the Giants against the Raiders. And the thing I like about Devontae Booker is with Saquon out, he's been getting safe volume. I think you can rely on 15 touches. He's been getting, like 15 carries, and then they started utilizing him more in the passing game. We've seen him have a 5-catch game before. So I just think he's a volume RB2 with some upside in a matchup that doesn't scare me a whole lot.
I mean, look, with Saquon out, I think Devontae Booker is a really nice option to kind of load up in there. I'm going to go on the opposite side in that same game and give you Josh Jacobs here. I mean, one, hopefully he's been able to rest up, having the bye week. He was banged up a little bit, so hopefully he's healthy. Giants' running defense has been just average at best, maybe a little bit less than average over the last few weeks or so. And plus, look, the Raiders, they need to find some other targets beyond Darren Waller in this offense right now, and I think until they figure that part out, this is a good time for them to lean on Josh Jacobs and see if that running game can't get established and help them maybe get a win that they desperately need against the New York Football Giants this week. That gets us to our wide receivers. Our must-start wide receiver for the week. Adam Rank, who is it for you?
I feel pretty good, first of all, that I found the team that had CMC, but I also found a team that also has Jamar Chase, who has been absolutely fantastic this season. Turns out he can catch a football, white stripe or not. And to
I
me,
like the
this
White Stripes. They make good music.
They do. Fell in love with a girl one time. Wait, that's not them. That is them.
I mean, it takes a 7-nation army couldn't hold Jamar Chase down.
We could do this all day. Listen, here's you could, yeah, Florio could. I think I think the biggest question for me is, what do we do? Do we start T. Higgins against the Browns this week?
I'm sitting him in one league, and I'm starting him everywhere else.
I feel bad about that. I think Jamar Chase is automatic. And I think it's the other guys, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, that always have the biggest question marks. I like C.J. Uzomah. I have so much C.J. Uzomah, I can't start T. Higgins. But I think that Jamar Chase, though, is otherworldly. And obviously, we don't need to talk about this anymore because he needs to start.
I have so much C.J. Uzomah, I can't start T. Higgins is a phrase I never thought I would hear.
It is.
Alas, here we are. I'm going to go with Bobby Tree. Actually, no, I'm going with Brandon. No, you're going with Brandon.
I'm going to go with Brandon Cooks.
I'm all turned around. Yeah, so go.
I like Brandon Cooks. It's a good matchup against Miami, who allows the second most fantasy points to receivers, but also specifically Tyrod Taylor's back. And we know Brandon Cooks is going to get all the targets there, but they weren't a high-quality target. And now I think they'll be a lot better with Taylor there. And with Taylor there, I think it could be a good game where, this is a little bit more back and forth. So it's competitive as well. Brandon Cooks will be happy for a week.
I'm talking about Brandon Cooks' former teammate, Robert Woods. And I know that we talked about it earlier, that he's sort of dealing with an injury, kind of banged up. But it does seem like in the last few weeks, Matt Stafford has made more of a concerted effort to get him involved. I mean, they're still obviously using Cooper Kupp a ton, but we're starting to see more Robert Woods in the offense. And I just like the matchup so much against the Titans secondary that, maybe they find different ways to get him the football, and he finds his way into the end zone. So there it is.
I like it.
Must start tight end, Adam Rank.
I'm going to go with Tyler Conklin in this one. I think, again, when we looked at the FPA for a while with the Ravens, you never really believed it. You're like, whatever. Darren Waller had 20 receptions against them one night. It's not accurate. But I think over the course of the season, we've seen that this team is a little vulnerable to the tight end position. And I think that if I like Kirk Cousins in this game, that I really should be looking at Conklin. God, should I drop Uzomah and pick up Conklin? No, I don't know what to do.
A lot of C.J. Uzomah.
I know, there's so much C.J. Uzomah, but I do really like Tyler Conklin this week.
I like Tyler Conklin a lot as well. Florio?
Yeah, Mike Gesicki here for me. I know we've spoke about him a good amount, but even with Jacoby Brissett, I'm starting him. Jacoby Brissett, like Rank said, focuses on Waddle and Gesicki, and that's really it. He's the #1 tight end over the last month, but they use him more as a wide receiver, especially without Devontae Parker. And the fact that Tyrod Taylor's back, I think, makes it a competitive game. So the Dolphins will have to put up, more than 14 points to win this one.
I do like Gesicki this week. I also like Jared Cook, especially if you're in a deeper league this week. I talked about the Chargers struggling against tight ends. Well, the Eagles struggle just as much against tight ends. And Cook, you know, he just keeps hanging around. He's that dude that nobody really seems excited about, but he comes out and he makes plays, he gets targets.
Jared Cook.
And I think this is going to happen again this week. The Eagles, or rather the Chargers, need to bounce back and get a win, and Jared Cook could sort of help them offensively with that. So.
Earlier this week, your boy Michael Frank said that Jared Cook was garbage.
No, I just said I wouldn't sit Mike Williams for him.
Yes, you did. That's exactly right.
All right, that gets us to our bold fantasy predictions for the week. As we're running out of time, I got a clock right here to tell me.
We
Rank,
got
what's
plenty
yours?
of time.
Yeah,
I can fill this last minute 30.
You're the only one who has to talk.
I really do believe that Myles Gaskin is going to be a top 5 fantasy running back this week. I think this is a perfect opportunity. I think that the problem with Myles Gaskin is his inconsistency, and you have to figure out which week is going to be the week that he breaks out. I think in the matchup against the Houston Texans this week that he's going to go out and do it.
I like Kadarius Toney a lot this week. I have him as a top 10 wide receiver with Sterling Shepard out. He's going to get more time into the slot. He's got a 30% target share with Shepard sits, and he's averaging over 130 yards per game. Hopefully he finds the end zone as well.
I'm going to go with Jordan Love scoring 20 fantasy points for this one against the Kansas City Chiefs. Part of it is just picking on that Chiefs defense. And look, I think there's a chance that the Packers could be playing from behind. Maybe we even see Jordan Love get out and scramble a little bit, make some plays with his legs. Devontae Adams. I think he is going to be wise enough to realize that when trouble happens, like throw it to Devontae. Like that seems like a pretty smart
good idea.
They've got good options. Again, going back to the running backs and Devontae Adams, like he's not devoid of talent around him, so it'll be fun.
So that should be interesting. So thank you for watching. You see the Baltimore Ravens coming out of the tunnel, getting ready to kick things off. Oh, and we got the New York Football Giants.
Oh, there they are.
The baseball Giants left 60 years ago.
Where's Danny Jones?
Part of it. All right, that'll do it for us. I'm Marcus. That's Rank. That's Florio. It's NFL Fantasy Game Day presented by Geico. Happy Week 9.